What is going on, YouTube universe? This is Zirra, and today, ladies and gentlemen, we are hitting pause and uploading a different type of video. One that I've done similarly in the past, but we're going to take a little bit of a different approach to it this year, because while in past years I have played enough video games to quantify a top 10 best games of insert year here, or top 10 least favourite games of insert year here, I haven't played enough games this year to quantify doing those lists. Just to put it into perspective, I own Warhammer 40k Space Marines 2 since day one. Still haven't played it yet. I have only played a little bit of Star Wars Outlaws. I haven't played Astrobot. I haven't played the Elden Ring DLC. Let alone I've only played 20 minutes of Elden Ring in general, so I'm probably needing to get into that. Haven't played the newest Final Fantasy VII, so there is a lot that is left to be desired, and I feel I would have been doing an injustice if I threw those onto a list when I haven't played them. I feel, as a content creator, if I'm making a list, well, I should be so lucky. If I was making a list, I feel I have to do, right by myself and right by you guys at home by making sure that I have experienced those games for myself. So when I give a hot take or I'm speaking about it, it's coming from a personal experience. It's not coming from like a bullshit pre-written script that I haven't, even bothered playing the game. I'm just going to throw some ideas that I've thrown together off, online. That's not what we're about here. By the way, can we take a minute just to appreciate the bling, the New Year's bling? My niece says that they're pretties, so I'm wearing my New Year's Eve pretties. At the time of this recording, it is 9:30 New Year's Eve. We are only a few hours away here in Australia from reigning in 2025, and I am hoping this video drops before worldwide gets into the 2025 trend. Fingers crossed, because my uploading is a little bit, to be desired. Today's video, though, what we are doing is we are taking the concept of a top 10 worst and a top 10 best, and we're mixing them together in what is going to be 5 video games I loved and 5 video games that disappointed me in 2024. I've played all of these games. I played enough to quantify 10 games collectively. Thank fuck for that. I am looking forward to playing some of the games I've mentioned already that I haven't gotten my hands on. My kids are looking forward to jumping into Astrobot with me too. But what we're going to do is I'm going to rattle off my 5 disappointing games for the year first, and then we can end things on a high with my top 5 favourite games that I have personally played. So again, you're not going to see titles like Astrobot, you're not going to see Final Fantasy VII, you're not going to see the Elden Ring DLC, you're not going to see Space Marines 2, games that I haven't played yet will not be on this list. So I just want to preface that, because I don't want people jumping in, seeing I'm missing titles and going that my list is bullshit because it doesn't have certain games on it. Okay? Okay. Of the games that disappointed myself the most, we are starting at number 10 with Star Wars Outlaws.
Forgive the intrusion, but I sensed you needed an interpreter.
Oh, thanks, but I'm not giving her a tooth.
Now, I want to preface this by saying this is not the current build of Star Wars Outlaws. This is the release build. This is the build that drove a lot of gamers insane, that drove a lot of gamers actually away from the IP, because there were bugs and glitches and things going on within the game that really killed its momentum straight out the gate. Whilst now, if you dive into this game, you are given a definitive Star Wars experience that branches out into an open world like we haven't seen before within this franchise, on release, there were a multitude of issues that brought this game crashing down back to Earth. Namely, it was the insta-kill stealth missions that did myself crazy and did a lot of other gamers crazy as well, and that would be in sections where as soon as the guise was lifted and you were busted within a stealth mission, which was pretty much happening as soon as the mission started, it was an insta-kill and you'd have to start all over again, and it was an endless loop of constantly being found out even if you were well hidden and having to do everything again. An absolute buzzkill, and as a gamer, regardless of whether you're doing it for content creation or you're just doing it for the love of the game, it absolutely destroys any want to play this game. And unfortunately for myself, it put me in a position where I walked away from this game for a very long time. I am glad, however, to hear that this has now been fixed, and I'm very excited to start a new game and take in the experience we should have gotten at launch. Number 9, South Park Snow Day.
Stan! Hey, Stan! Stan, thank God you're safe. You don't know what it's like out there. Everyone's going crazy, fighting each other.
Fuck, I love Randy.
Now, I'm still arguing internally with myself about what I dislike more about South Park Snow Day. The fact that they took a different approach to their games that strayed from the 2D RPG platforming kind of style that we've come to appreciate and love with Stick of Truth and Fractured But Whole, or the fact that this game was so fucking incredibly short. Don't get me wrong, throughout the game you were given your typical South Park humour, which I found incredibly tongue-in-cheek and incredibly hilarious in part, and while I was playing the game, I did have very enjoyable moments from here and there. However, there were severe inconsistencies throughout that truly killed my experience. From a lack of diverse in combat to the cards that you would get kind of not being recycled enough and offering you the same ones consistently, your playthrough that you're supposed to be given as a definitive experience felt very controlled and repetitive. And whilst I appreciated the 3D take for South Park, and I thought that was a huge leap for the boys at South Park Studios, I'm not sure whether it truly landed where it should have, especially, as I said, when the Stick of Truth and Fractured But Whole are two games that are universally loved by the South Park community. You hold those onto a certain mantle, and then you get South Park Snow Day that just doesn't live up to the marker, and it kind of makes me a little bit worried. Snow Day might have been ambitious, but we were better off staying inside and letting the snow play out. Number 8, Skull and Bones.
Oh yeah! I hope you'll enjoy this zone!
If you just want my opinion on this game, I don't like it. Yeah, I know, big surprise. On the PlayStation 5, the graphics aren't impressive to look at whatsoever, and moving your character around on land feels so incredibly tedious and clunky. The core gameplay loop is incredibly boring, and there's little to no story development to flesh out the game's world or your character's role in it. It's basically, let's jump in a ship and shoot the shit out of each other, which if you wanted to do that, we could always go back and play Assassin's Creed Black Flag or Sea of Thieves, right? The voice acting is really hit or miss, even with major NPCs and brief attempts at worthwhile representation of the region it depicts. Sea travel is not fun whatsoever and is something that they heavily pushed through advertising, and I feel this game was incredibly overhyped, and the fact that it was hyped as much as it was versus the amount of times we saw this game continually push back, we were expecting something a lot better than what we got, and I think this game was dead in the water before arrival. Number 7, Concord.
What is that? What the fuck is that?
Let's get one thing straight. If there is anybody out there making a top 10 worst video games of 2024 or a top 5, most disappointing games of 2024, Concord is going to sit in the 1, 2, or 3 spot on everybody's list. The hero shooter released and aimed at being a competitor to the likes of Overwatch, but fell short just after 2 weeks, and not only did it fall short, Sony dismantled the entire production company that put this game together. It was an absolute disaster, which is a shame because I played the beta of Concord, and for the most part, I actually enjoyed a bit of what it had to offer. Where it fell short, though, was it didn't offer enough to stand aside from other hero shooters like Overwatch. It didn't give you a genuine alternative. It was basically a reskin of something that we already had, and the fact that they put a price tag on it versus the fact that it probably should have released as a free-to-play, and if it had released as a free-to-play, we would probably still be playing it right now. Our time was short with you, Concord, and inevitably, we lost you to space itself. Number 6, Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League.
How about we shove these gold kryptonite bullets right up his ass?
I don't think that's
Fucking
how we're
great idea.
supposed to.
Uh-oh.
Fuck. Well, go on then, Harkness. Go shove a bullet up his ass.
Now, I know what you're thinking. I'm crazy to put Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League ahead of Concord, but you need to understand, Suicide Squad was one of my most anticipated games coming into 2024, and being given the final product that we have got, especially with the news that has recently dropped that they're canning live service and they're completely cutting off any updates or anything moving forward after the current update that is, I think it's already dropped maybe, or it was dropping. Either way, live service for the game is canned, and that is absolutely terrible news for a game that should have hit harder but failed to land a finishing blow. This to me was very similar to Gotham Knights. I played it as a multiplayer experience, and I feel the banter between my friends that I shared this experience with made the game so much more enjoyable. Had I played it on my own, I think I may have struggled to get to the finish line. And it's a damn shame, because the characterization in this game I felt on some level was incredibly well done. I thought characters like King Shark and Captain Boomerang were incredibly hilarious. Harley had her moments. Deadshot, maybe not so much, but I didn't play as Deadshot, so I couldn't really give a shit. Where the game really fell short was I feel the story kind of teetered a little bit and got a little bit boring after a while. Not to mention the way they handled Batman and Batman kind of leaving this universe. While I personally take a slant that it is rather poetic, the way he died, you know, a bullet killed his parents and created the Batman. A bullet is something that ends the Batman. It kind of feels like a full circle moment, but with everything that we have seen Kevin Conroy's Batman go through, is that the way we should have seen him bow out, especially knowing that we don't have Kevin Conway in our world anymore? You know, they could have handled other bosses in the game a lot better. I feel Superman was way too easy to kill. He should have been the penultimate hardest to kill. He should have been harder than Brainiac, in my opinion, to kill, because he's the Man of Steel. I just feel, while some parts in this game were elevated and felt so incredibly fleshed out and well done, like the Terratoxin scenario before taking on Batman, versus the rest of the game that just felt a little bit repetitive. The combat missions and the missions available to you were almost a rinse and repeat in every single area. This game promised to be so much and just failed in most aspects, and was ultimately my most disappointing video game for the year. Now let's move on to something a little bit more lighthearted. Let's dive into my top 5 games that I loved the most in 2024. Kicking off with number 5, Marvel Rivals.
We are undefeatable!
I never expected a video game to take over my life as much as this game has. I have racked up over 100 plus hours on this game already. Don't ask me how, but it has happened. I have never been that big of a hero shooter kind of guy. I played a lot of Overwatch, the original, when it first came out, but I wasn't hardcore into it. I've played a little bit of Overwatch 2, but I feel that has left a lot to be desired. And where Concord failed to truly come into fruition and blossom, Marvel Rivals has taken the reins and absolutely ran rampant with it. Marvel Rivals is very much like Overwatch in the sense that it is a hero shooter that allows you to choose a hero from a number of different classes, and you set out to complete a mission, whether it is to capture a point over a number of different rounds in a particular area, or you are to escort or defend a moving point from start to finish, where you have maybe a statue that you got to move from your base to a defensive base, or whether you've got to work on the other side and stop the team from getting that statue from their base to your base. It is very simple in design. The idea has not, been brought into light as something brand new and fresh, but the way they handle this, the way that they have developed the worlds, the way that the heroes can interact with one another and have different team-up abilities depending on who you use, it really makes this game feel like a breath of fresh air to this genre of game, which is where Concord failed and Marvel Rivals has rose to the occasion. Do you know what else has worked for this game? It is free to play, so anybody can dive on in, and you can earn in-game credits just by playing in order to buy the skins, so you aren't forced to pay out of your own pocket to purchase things like that. You can earn it by playing. It is the best reward to put time and effort into playing it. I've already said I've put a number of hours into this, and it is something that I'm looking to continue playing as it grows, because this has potential, in my opinion anyway, to become one of, if not the biggest game within this genre. I can already see Marvel Rivals in 2025 entering the esports space and could overtake Overwatch. Very bold call, but I'm making it early. Number 4, the Outlast Trials.
I was just going to say, come check over here first, because he's having a good old breastfeed over here.
You get caught with your hand in the cookie jar?
Oh, you got caught with your mouth on the chitty jar, mate.
Now, if you know me, I'm a huge horror fan, and Outlast is one of those franchises that has always sent shivers up my spine, and I have loved the first-person experience. Throwing you into the sanitarium in the first one, really taking you out of your own skin and putting it into somebody else's and making you feel that fear was something that really overtook me the first time I played that game. And hearing that they were going to bring a multiplayer spin to that, I was so excited to dive on in. I didn't anticipate loving this game as much as I ended up doing though. I ended up playing this with a good friend of mine, Rockstar Pool 69. It was the first time we have ever collaborated together, and I can tell you what, it is one of the best collaborative experiences I have ever taken on this channel.
Let's do this.
Indeed.
Okay, here we go.
Essentially, at its core, you are captured by the organization within the Outlast universe. You are thrown into a system with a group of other players, and you are tested to see whether you can overcome certain obstacles thrown at you. And in order to get out, you need to successfully pass all of these tests. What is so great about this game as well is over time, they have systematically added updates for free, mind you, that adds new game modes, new maps, new villains, and even seasonal events over periods like Halloween and Christmas, which keeps making players come back for more, and it is something that I'm always actively looking for. Every update that has come so far, Rockstar Pool and myself have dove back in, and we are going to continue doing so every time they bring something back into the mix, because I feel on the horror spectrum, really decent multiplayer games in this vein are very few and far in between. They have really hit the nail on the head with this, and I feel this is only just the beginning for this franchise, because this game right here, they have really got themselves a diamond. Number 3, Still Wakes the Deep.
That thing's huge. I was just about to say, is that its peen?
This is a game that came out of left field, and one that I didn't really, bother researching into. It was one that just released, and I saw a bunch of people playing it, and a bunch of people reached out to me saying, Zirra, you've got to get your hands on Still Wakes the Deep. It is incredible. You've got to dive on in. And I felt the tension and the fear genuinely from the second that game started. It is not just one of the best games I played in 2024. It is one of the best horror games I have played in the last 4 to 5 years, comfortably. You play as a man who is working on an oil rig to escape the police back at home and to not put his family through the rigors of being locked up. However, he doesn't anticipate that that oil rig would eventually become a prison of hell in its own right, with nightmarish creatures taking control and you having to fight for survival. And the creatures themselves, don't even get me started. That shit was like straight out of Silent Hill or Resident Evil. The creature designs was so eerie and fucking disgusting. I loved it. And as I said, the atmosphere in this game was so incredibly tense. Every moment you were hiding behind a block or underneath a steel grate to get away from those creatures, you could feel every one of those deep breaths and heartbeats deep within yourself, not just the character you were playing as. And to do that in a video game, especially as a studio that had very little people working on it, incredibly well done. If this is the future of horror games, sign me up. Number 2, Silent Hill 2 Remake.
Oh, fuck. Yeah, we're in trouble.
I wrestled with this being between the number 2 and number 1 spot, but I feel this is where it needs to land given my number 1 game. I've never played the original Silent Hill 2 before, so going into this game, it was a brand new experience for myself, and I feel that really opened a door for it to not only be recognized just as a remake, but as a definitive horror experience. What Bloober Team has done with this remake is similar to what we have seen with the Resident Evil remakes that have dropped recently, taking the original story beefing it up, and adding just a little bit of content to it to make the story and gameplay just that little bit more juicier. The creature designs were so incredibly well done. The atmosphere in this game was palpable, from the fog overtaking everything to the soundtrack of this game. The sound design and the soundtrack alone was award-winning in my opinion. This game was so incredibly well put together, I couldn't speak any more highly of it. Not to mention the fact that we were able to take a little cheeky visit down to the strip club as well.
You gonna dance for me, big guy?
Oh, yeah.
I'd pay to see that.
Don't you worry, baby. I'll dance all right.
Similarly to Still Wakes the Deep, Silent Hill 2 Remake is one of the best horror games I have played definitively for a number of years, and you can lump that with games like Alan Wake 2, you can lump that in with Resident Evil 4 Remake. As horror fans, we're eating, and we're eating good. Number 1, Black Myth Wukong. He's gonna fuck me raw. I don't think it would surprise many people that Black Myth was going to be my number 1 game for the year. It was my personal game of the year, and that was purely just based upon the story we were given that was interwoven so seamlessly with the Chinese mythology. And the reason I've got this at number 1, and I hold it in such high regard, is the fact that this is a genre I don't typically play. I've played Bloodborne, I've played little to no of Elden Ring, I've played a little bit of Demon's Souls, but this is something I don't usually just sit down and go, fuck yeah, I'm happy to go in and die 100 odd times playing a video game and I'm gonna love it. This was something that I dove into purely for the Chinese mythology, purely for the fact that I know the story of Sun Wukong. I wanted to take that on and experience it for myself, and I thought it would be a good stepping stone to get me into the genre. And fuck, I was right. From the multitude of different enemy types to the secret areas you could unlock that would reap higher reward, to the boss fights themselves, to the combat, to the sound design, to the soundtrack, everything in this game culminated into a visual and audio masterpiece. And with the way the game ended, if you did a certain ending, it does allude to the fact that we could be getting DLC or another game in future, so stay tuned for that. If you're looking for a Souls-like experience with a bit of mythology to beef up the story, Black Myth Wukong is the perfect game for you. That is it for this video, ladies and gentlemen. 10 video games all up, 5 that I loved and 5 that disappointed me in 2024. I would have loved to have played more, but the dice that I rolled gave me a certain year to play out, and hey, it didn't allow me to play as many games as I would have loved to. 2025, however, is dropping a list of games that could give us one of the best years in gaming that we have had for a very long time. And with myself wanting to get back into the live streaming scene, you better believe at home we are going to be playing a hell of a lot more games next year than what we did this year. I'm stumbling over my words because I'm that damn excited. But keep your eyes peeled for things like GTA 6, for The Witcher 4, for Borderlands 4, and even for a video that I'm going to drop in the new year with my top 10 most anticipated releases of 2025, where I will release the rest of the games that I am looking forward to. Yeah, that's right. Cliffhanger bitch. Enjoy it. But that's it from me, guys. I'm out of here. Happy New Year's to you all. If we are in 2024, I did my job. If we're in 2025, hey, I tried. And as always, I will catch you guys next time. Get off my pretties. Hit subscribe, you bastard.